This week on The Watchman, it's one of the oldest churches ever found in Israel, and this 1,600-year-old structure bears witness to one of the most important events in Christianity.
Jesus appointed Simon Jonah as the prime disciple as Peter. Your faith in me is so solid, it's like a rock.
Plus, we head to Israel's snow-capped Mount Hermon to learn about its incredible biblical history, and we visit an ancient synagogue in Israel's Golan Heights that's been miraculously restored. All that and much more, only right here on The Watchman. And welcome to The Watchman. We've got some breaking biblical archaeology news for you this week. Israeli archaeologists have uncovered one of the oldest churches ever found in Israel, dating all the way back to the 4th century AD. This 1,600-year-old Byzantine church in Caesarea Philippi had been built over a Greek pagan temple. And to top it all off, researchers believe it commemorated the very spot where the Bible says the Apostle Peter recognized Jesus as the Son of God. Watchman contributor Danny the Digger Hermon, who's a top Israeli archaeologist and tour guide, joined us to share the inside story of this exciting archaeological discovery. Take a look. Danny the Digger Hermon, welcome back to The Watchman, my friend. It is always great to have you.
Always a pleasure to be on your show, Eric. How are you?
I'm great, my friend. I miss you. Hopefully, I'll be back with you in Israel very soon. But in the meantime, yes. But in the meantime, we've got another fascinating archaeological discovery in Israel, this time in northern Israel, Caesarea Philippi, a place with great biblical significance. Danny, tell us about it.
Yes, the site is very famous from a record in the Gospels of where Jesus appointed Simon Jonah as the prime disciple as Peter. And archaeologically, we know of a big pagan cultic center there, but for the first time, we found in that area also a Christian church. It was found by accident while cleaning up the area, and it turns out that one of the temples, the one facing the main cave, was converted around the year 400 into a church. Not much of it was found, only a little bit of a mosaic, but a little cross embedded in the decoration. And at the entrance, they found a stone with some crosses inscribed on them, meaning pilgrims came in and chiseled the cross as they entered. And this is very interesting. You really see the tangible remains of the Christianization of the Roman pagan world. And
5th century, as you said, Danny, this would be the Byzantine period. Crosses inscribed at the site, pretty amazing. And tell us a little bit more, if you can, about the significance of Caesarea Philippi. You mentioned it was obviously the place where Peter acknowledged Jesus. You are the Christ. You are the Son of the living God.
Yes.
And Jesus gave Peter that nickname, Petros, the rock.
Yes, his real name was Simon Jonah. Peter is just a nickname, which comes out of a play on words you can only say really in Greek, okay? In the English, it says that Jesus stated, and I tell you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church. But only if you read the Greek, you realize he had here a nice play of words. Kata desu legu otue Petru, kai epitote Petra, oikodomesumu ecclesian. Okay, your faith in me is so solid, it's like a rock. So I'll call you. If this dialogue was in English, he would say, and I'm going to call you Rocky. Luckily, the conversation was in Greek, and that's how Peter, Petrus, became his famous nickname.
Hey, now you're a native Hebrew speaker, by the way, but that was some pretty impressive Greek that you just shared.
Finally, 2 years of studying ancient Greek came into some use. Yes, I sweated quite a lot on being capable to read this, probably with mistakes. It's fascinating to see how even here in Caesarea Philippi, a temple is converted into a church. It happens all over the Roman Empire. In Rome itself, to this day, there's a church in the center of Rome called Santa Maria Supra Minerva. Okay, a former temple of Minerva becomes a church for Mary. And now we see also in Caesarea Philippi, a former temple, probably for the god of Pan, becoming a church. What we still don't know is what was the focal point of this church. The obvious speculation would be it's relating to Peter being appointed here. But funny enough, the Byzantine sources do not relate to this. When Byzantine pilgrims come to the site, they say there is a church in Caesarea Philippi, but for the veneration of the miracle of curing the hemorrhaging women. Okay, there's another story in the Gospels of a woman hemorrhaging for 12 years, and then she is cured by Jesus. If you read the text closely, it seems to have happened in Capernaum, at least in my opinion. But for some reason, in the 5th century, that miracle was suggested to have happened in Caesarea Philippi. So this church may have been venerating that miracle, or the appointing of Peter, or maybe a third subject which we do not know about.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, Danny. No matter what it was, there was clearly a connection at that site, Caesarea Philippi, to the New Testament, to the ministry of Jesus. So it makes perfect sense, obviously, that they would build a church there, especially over a pagan shrine. Makes even more sense. Hey, tell us a little bit more about Caesarea Philippi, geographically, just so people know, where exactly is Caesarea Philippi?
Well, if Israel is the palm of my hand, it's the fingernail at the very end, in the source of one of the streams that formed the Jordan River. Until 67, it was actually held by the Syrians, but in the Six-Day War, it became under Israeli sovereignty. And in the 1990s, large-scale excavations were carried out at the site, uncovering mostly the pagan cultic center there. But I don't know how to explain it, that they missed that church that was added over one of the temples. Only now, coincidentally, when cleaning it up, that was uncovered. And I was really excited because we knew about Caesarea Philippi from the New Testament so well, and now we have archaeological reference to the Christianization of that site so clearly.
Coming up, Danny the Digger joins us on Israel's mighty Mount Hermon in the shadow of Caesarea Philippi and that Byzantine church that we just discussed. Folks, this is a mountain where pivotal New Testament events may have taken place, and Danny has all the fascinating details after the break. Don't move.
Christians United for Israel is the largest pro-Israel organization in the United States with over 10 million members. But we are still missing one: you. As a member of CUFI, you'll be part of a growing movement that's catching fire across the nation as Christians discover the biblical importance of standing with Israel and the Jewish people. You can defend Israel virtually by responding to CUFI's action alerts and sharing CUFI's pro-Israel content on social media. You can support Israel locally by hosting a CUFI event at your church. Get involved nationally by attending our Washington, D.C. summit, or visit the Holy Land with CUFI on a life-changing Israel tour. Visit www.cufi.org or call to help ensure that the relationship between Israel and the United States remains strong and secure. It's a movement for such a time as this.
And welcome back. Did you know that Israel has a snow-capped mountain? That's right. Mighty Mount Hermon towers over northern Israel, Lebanon, and Syria, and is the site of Israel's only ski resort, right in the heart of the Middle East. It also has great biblical significance. And our good friend Danny the Digger Hermon hit the slopes with us to share how Mount Hermon played a pivotal role in both the Old and New Testaments. Take a look. Welcome back to the Watchman. We are here at the majestic Mount Hermon, and folks, look who we ran into up here. Danny the Digger Hermon. Today he's Danny the Skier, Watchman contributor here on the slopes of Mount Hermon. great to see you here, my friend.
Great to be with you, even on the top of the state of Israel.
Yeah.
What a majestic location.
I know, and I know you love this place, and Danny's been telling us you have to come to Mount Hermon. Now we're here with you. And hey, we talked about it's a great, obviously, tourist destination, strategic security importance, but Danny, incredible biblical history here on Mount Hermon, both the Old Testament and the New Testament.
And the New Testament.
Let's start with the Old.
First of all, the name Hermon, it implies that it's a sacred place. It's from the word cherem or haram in Arabic. It means sanctified, okay, or reserved for sanctity. And the ridge right in front of us, okay, now you have a military post because it's close to the border. In the Middle Ages, the Jews and the Muslims identified it as the place of the Betarim event, an event documented in the chapter 15 of the book of Genesis, where Abraham is commanded to give sacrifice, and at the end God promises him, one day your descendants will inherit all of this.
Wow, and you can see what a vantage point, Danny. So God Almighty showed the patriarch Abraham, this is where he showed him the land.
And it doesn't get, the view doesn't get better than here.
No.
Now, also the New Testament, in my humble opinion, relates to this area, the event of the Transfiguration. Now, I know, and you probably know, most of the Christians identify it on Mount Tabor, just next to Nazareth. But for one thing, Mount Tabor was inhabited in the first century. And the text implies that he was in an empty space, on an empty hilltop.
And just to review, the Transfiguration, look, is where Jesus, he's on top of a mountaintop. He's with Peter, James, and John, kind of the inner circle of the disciples. And Danny, he turns a radiant white, according to the Gospels.
Radiant white.
Matthew, Mark, and Luke recount this, a radiant, dazzling white. And he's joined by Elijah
and Moses, approving his divinity. And the event in some Gospels happens right after he's in Caesarea Philippi, which is right down here. It makes much more sense that they climbed up to this sacred mountain and experiences rather than walk all the way down back to Nazareth and Mount Tabor.
Yeah, and 2 Peter also recounts that. Peter was here, obviously, at the point of the Transfiguration, and he says, number one, that a voice came from heaven, "This is my son, I love him, listen to him." And number two, Peter says it happened on the sacred place, and Mount Hermon, as you said, means the sacred place.
The sacred place, the confined place for sanctity. And it's just after the event in Caesarea Philippi where Peter is given the name or nickname Peter.
Yes.
Petros, rock, okay? Because his faith is so solid.
Yes.
Okay, Caesarea Philippi is actually right beneath us, Eric.
Right.
We should film there also one day.
We should. It's another great place here in the land of Israel. Hey, you know, also we talk about the Old Testament connections to Mount Hermon. The book of Psalms talks about the dew of Hermon. It really was a legendary place in the mind of Israelis, really going back 3,000 years.
Hermon and the Carmel are symbols for the beauty of the creation of God.
Yeah.
Okay? And what a place.
What a place.
It doesn't get better than this.
It is. Danny, this is just absolutely stunning and beautiful. We were saying, hey, a lot of people think Israel's all desert, it's in the Middle East, but no, no, no. What a gem here, the northernmost point of Israel, Mount Hermon.
Especially in January, February, after there's some heavy snow, it's majestic. You're like in the Swiss Alps right now.
This is Israel. This is the Middle East, folks. Mount Hermon. Now, I don't want to hold you up any longer. You've been looking forward to getting up here on a little ski vacation. So
yes.
Danny the Digger / Danny the Skier.
It's going to slide all the way down to Caesarea Philippi.
Thank you, my friend. Go ahead. We'll see you again soon here in the land. Thank you, Danny the Skier. Watchman contributor Danny the Digger Hermon. He's a man of many talents, folks. What an amazing place. By the way, another interesting detail about Mount Hermon is that some Bible scholars believe it's the place where fallen angels descended to the earth in the period before Noah. Maybe we'll investigate that in a future Watchman segment. But up next, we're staying in northern Israel to take you to an ancient synagogue that's been miraculously restored. Find out how this house of worship came back to life after the break. Stick around.
CUFI's mission is to educate and empower millions of American Christians to speak with one voice in defense of Israel and the Jewish people. There's several ways you can learn more about Israel every day through CUFI's dynamic resources. The CUFI Coffee Break is a weekly bite-sized Israel lesson delivered to your email inbox. Dive into topics like the forgotten Jewish refugees, Israel's agricultural communities called kibbutzim, and the Hamas rocket threat, with options to dig deeper each week. Every lesson can be read in under 5 minutes while you're making a cup of coffee. Plus, stay informed on all the latest news out of Israel and how it affects you by subscribing to CUFI's Daily Briefing. It's a daily news roundup of important Israel-related headlines, so you're always up to date when it comes to Israel. Follow CUFI on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram for daily content, including videos, news articles, breaking news, devotionals, fun facts, and more.
Eric, let's go inside. Lots to see.
Let's take a look. I can't wait. I've heard so much about this place, Yaakov, and now I am here.
Let's see history in our own eyes.
Yes. Wow. Unbelievable. And so well preserved and restored.
Yep.
Just amazing. And look at this.
Right.
This is probably the highlight.
This is the highlight. I would say, when the first archaeologists came to this site, we're talking about the late 1800s.
Yeah.
And then along the years, people kept on coming. There was a big argument. Is this a Jewish place or not? And we're now standing in the synagogue. And a synagogue in Hebrew is Bet Knesset, which means the house of gathering. This is the heart of the community. This is where everyone meets, 3 times a day, of course, on the weekend. So this is really the heart of the village. And 2 main things prove to us that this is a synagogue. One, the direction of the prayer. Okay, we're now standing towards Jerusalem.
Yes.
And the second thing, this is the Torah Ark. We have here menorahs on it. We see different Jewish symbols.
Clearly Jewish.
So you understand this is Jewish.
Yeah.
Now, just understand, this was a pile of stone. And several, I would say, crazy archaeologists said there's something here. They put little chips in every stone on the pile, and they were able to create a 3D image of where each piece goes. What this place looked like 1,500 years ago when it was destroyed by an earthquake and the Jews had to leave this village. And here we are, 20 years after they began.
Yeah.
We're standing here. This is what it looked, almost what it looked like 1,500 years ago. And we're standing here. And for me, it's always very moving to stand here as, a Jew, as a Golan resident, and I understand I'm standing here. We have bar mitzvah celebrations here. We have weddings here.
Right.
Every group I have here, we come to pray here. And you're standing praying in front of the arch, and your forefathers were praying here just thousands of years ago.
Yeah, Yaakov, that's amazing. What's also incredible is that where we are standing inside right now, not too long ago, this was rubble. And to be restored bit by bit, block by block, pillar by pillar is just amazing. Give us a little bit more information on the relevance and significance of the Ark and what happened here with the Torah in this section of the synagogue.
So first of all, what you just said, I think, is maybe the essence of Israel. You have history and you have innovation, right? A very vibrant, innovative culture, and it comes together here. The innovation is what is able to create the restoration of this place. Yeah. When you pray in a synagogue, so the synagogues, back then the whole community would sit around. So they can see each other. It's a little bit different than what we see in some of the synagogues, different traditions today. But this is where the Torah scrolls were.
Wow.
And twice a week, and then on Sabbath, you read from the Torah scrolls, the weekly portion. So everyone is praying towards this direction. This specific project wouldn't have happened if not for the personal support of the Prime Minister of Israel, who came here himself for the day they reopened the synagogue. I told you he has a lot of respect for the Golan. He has a very deep connection.
Sure.
And thousands of visitors are coming here every month because, you can touch history here. Yeah. And I'd like to just share with you one more important thing which personally inspires me. Let's talk about who restored this place. Yeah. One of the archaeologists, his name is Yeshu Drey. And he's a very famous archaeologist in Israel. But one thing people don't know about him is that he is one of the brave fighters of the 1973 Yom Kippur War. He was there in the front line facing the mass Syrian attack, and he was there fighting with his fellow paratroopers, and he comes back decades later, to the land he protected and almost lost his life for, and he brings, the Jewish life, the Jewish history back to life here.
Amazing. As you said, Yaakov, look, there were some fierce battles here on the Golan in 67 and 73. Wow, that is amazing. Hey, last question. Number one, can you just hammer the point home some more that there was always Jewish life here in the land of Israel? Yes, the temple was destroyed in AD 70. Yes, after the Bar Kokhba revolt in 130, 134, the Jewish people were dispersed. But there was always a Jewish presence here over that 2,000-year period, even before 1948.
Jews always lived there. The question is where? At certain times they couldn't live in Jerusalem, but we know that they were always here. And something that really gives me inspiration is that, the Jews were here along the years, but they weren't in control of the land. And the land was deserted. And we know there are prophets that say that when the Jews come back to the land, it would start blossoming. And you see how when the early Zionist pioneers start coming here, suddenly something's waking up here. And after centuries of there's nothing here, suddenly the place is flourishing.
We're talking biblical archaeology this week, and I can't think of a better way to wrap up the show than with our next story. Deep within the Christian quarter of Jerusalem's Old City, a Palestinian Arab shopkeeper is bringing the Bible to life for his customers and speaking the truth. Take a look.
This is a very interesting coin that has Paleo-Hebrew on. This is a Hasmonean or Maccabees, 100 years BC, and has Hebrew. If the Jews were not here, you should find Japanese. We are Palestinians. We grew up in Jerusalem. My business first is biblical antiquities. My vision is to have gifts that is connected to the Bible. We're respecting the law and working hard, and we're getting prosper in Jerusalem, like anywhere else. We saw that Israelis are trying, and it made us like we want to support them, not to look on an identity, to look on human beings, and that they're made on the image of God. This is the oldest coin I have. It's 4th century BC, Judah, or Yahud. I don't know if the camera can see this, but next to the eagle here, it has 3 ancient Hebrew letters. It says Yahud, like Judah, Jews. Like Jews were here under the 4th century BC. People were like, one day were our enemies, and we studied that they're our enemies. Then just like meeting them and understanding that they're trying very hard to not have another Holocaust, and they're doing their best to keep the law and give equality for their people, it made us appreciate them more. Our hearts were open, and we saw that their hearts are open too, to people in the land, even they were not Jews. You will not understand it if we don't understand that God is love. God did all of this as a reaction of His love. God keeps His covenant because He's a loving God. God, take care of His people because He's a loving God. God sent His Son to manifest His love because He is love. And the biblical archaeology proves the Bible.
What a great story. Folks, you see the information there on your screen. Be sure to join our movement here at Christians United for Israel. We are the world's largest pro-Israel organization with some 10 million members and growing every day. While you're at it, you can check out the Watchman on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, where we are bringing you exclusive content that you won't get anywhere else. Check us out on YouTube, some very good stuff there. Hey, thanks for joining us this week on The Watchman. Until next time, God bless you. And remember, never hold your peace.